Part 5. Stormfront. After Coroman's death, Emori took little time to mourn before deciding to take action. Under heavy cloaks, she and Ranpram slipped into the town square, stood on a soapbox, and told what truth they could before the guards could arrive to arrest them.
Hello, fellow citizens of Fiori. My name is Emori Johndottir, and I am a Steelhelm Centurion and the leader of Emergence in the Waywriters Academy. I made this city a promise to serve and protect, which is why I am obligated to tell everyone what our council has been hiding. There are leaders within our city without our best interests in order to cover up the crimes that they are committing. The hunt for Yvette was focused on damage control. Her death was covered up and hidden by the House of Silence and Daniel Liongard. I've seen firsthand the dangers outside the dome. Dragons, mercenaries, and goblins, but mostly dragons. However, the war brewing within the city is starting right from underneath us. The power from our water is being redirected for reasons unknown, and the remainder of the dome's power is undoubtedly being under-exaggerated.
You hear the sounds of raised voices streets away. Someone has apparently alerted the guards, and soldiers quickly begin to approach.
Citizens, question everything. Trust no one.
The guards are quick to rush after you and slap manacles around your wrists. They call to you both. You are under arrest for crimes against the city and its people. You're coming with us.
During questioning by Inspector Wilfert and his partner Urgin, Pram and Emori were both asked about their movements and motivations pertaining to their crimes. Ranpram had little record in Fiori, but the constabulary considered him to be an accomplice to Emergence Squadron's blatant theft of government property, leaking confidential government intel, robbing the tomb of a respected centurion, and desecrating her body, as well as treasonous disregard for direct orders. Emori told the truth in response, that her mother was never fully dead. Her murder was the result of a double-cross from within her party, and they had managed to bring Yvette back, who can confirm as much to be true. Wilfert seemed to do little more than cock his eyebrows, shake his head, and jot down notes, until there was a knock at the door. Both constables stepped outside for a moment before returning to unshackle and uncage their detainees. They were free to go, but Wilfert pressed to Emori that she, and anyone now a part of their unofficial illegal squadron, were on strict probation and were not to leave the city or commit any further crimes. Pram and Emori were released into the care of Yvette, all dressed up in her old Centurion captain's armor, and Mr. Vadim Atheras. They returned to the safety and privacy of the Atheras estate and planned their next steps. With the whole city on watch for Emori and Pram, they decided it best to gather allies who might be able to do good on their behalf. Creepy old Joe, Roderick perhaps, and Yvette even suggested making some friends on the criminal side of things. She gave Emori a name and a meeting place, Raspicious Klingenberg of the Sokolet Mafia. The meeting place, a darkened back alley dead end, with a doorway that Emori was begrudgingly let through. They were led through smoky stone rooms thick with perfumed tapestries and curtains, as well as tables for a variety of games of chance. Raspicious Klingenberg greeted Emori and Pram with soft hands bedecked with rings, and admitted to having knowledge of their transgressions as well as their skills. Emori expressed the need to clear her name and uproot whatever corruption lies beneath the city. So the two struck a deal. Raspicious would have his contacts near the council gather as much intel as possible for Emergence, in exchange for their first-hand knowledge of the world outside Fiori, as well as a portion of the horde of the dragon in Doxa Stormheart, whom Emori intended to slay. After the meeting, and a night spent at Shepard's humble home, Emori and Ranpram arrived at the Shadowhammer household for breakfast. Upon arrival, however, Emori found her mother acting strangely.
You're back. Good to see you unharmed.
That was weird.
What was weird?
That weird greeting. Why'd you greet me like that?
We did go to a mob.
How else should I greet you?
Hello, my sweet, beloved daughter. Breviet, my child.
My beautiful, only green baby. Is that better?
Yes.
Good.
She turns. Your mom says,
Well, make yourselves comfortable. I'll prepare a satiating meal for after your tribulations.
Alright, that sounds good. Do you know where Papa is?
I think he went into town to the square to grab stuff for the smith. Yeah.
I'm very sussed out by this whole thing.
Yeah, make an insight check.
That was a natural 20.
Oh,
I thought it was.
What the fuck?
God damn.
You notice your mom is searching the cupboards sort of aimlessly, like she's unaware of what's inside them or isn't sure what to grab. You also notice that your mom's voice is off. This might just be because you've never heard her say those words before. It's almost like her accent is off. For the first time, your ears pick up that her accent might not be coming to her naturally.
She turned away.
She's down reaching in cupboards and stuff.
I shoot Herschel a look. I look at Pram, and I say, "Sleeping dragon," and I pick a dagger out of my boot, and I throw it at her back.
So yeah, you huck it, whips by and stabs right into the shoulder of her armor, right in the gap of her armor at the shoulder. And she clutches it, and she looks up at you. Red blood starts dripping, and she squints, and then she rolls her eyes, and she goes, "Fuck it." And she gives a whistle, and the front and back doors swing open simultaneously. Through the back door, you see a huge figure of gray muscle stoop under the door frame as a Goliath steps in.
Ooh.
Through the front door, you see a tabaxi, looks like a lioness with sort of like golden fur and this long tail, but clad in black leathers and holding daggers, and she steps in the front.
Do I know that?
Your mother rips the dagger out of her shoulder and looks at you as her eyes fade from a soft dark brown to a slitted pupiled bright blue, and she says, "Say my name." She says, "Say my name."
Indoxa.
"You will pay for your crimes against my dynasty." And that's where we're going to leave the episode.
Holy shit. Holy shit. I was
Thank you
like,
all for playing.
oh my god.
Yvette was indeed an imposter, Indoxa Stormheart, taking the form of Emori's mother as her minions close in on either side. The fight that ensued was bloody and desperate. The Tabaxi assassin Cleo, like a relentless predator, swiping for vitals with every poisoned strike, and the Goliath Bannard like a battle standard unto himself, in blue plate wielding a great axe. Indoxa stood to the side and watched as the battle unfolded, Emori and Ranpram too occupied to give her any focus. As the battle lingered, Indoxa seemed to grow bored, and revealed the teleportation circle chalked onto the hardwood floor of Emori's home, and uttered the words to activate it. With Bannard and Cleo bearing down, kobolds spilling out of the teleportation circle in the floor, and Indoxa yet to even join the fight, Ranpram's decision was made when Emori lost consciousness. That old fight or flight returned, and he chose the same thing he always had.
I think as Pram dips out the back window and starts sprinting out, you can hear the muffled voices shouting from inside.
You hear Cleo say, "After them, you oaf!" And you can hear Indoxa say, "Wait! The pink one is dead. We have all we need here. Collect them, take them back. I have business to attend to." Indoxa
Walks out the front door, gives a furtive glance up and down the street, doesn't see Pram immediately, and so just sort of takes a deep inhale, sees if she can catch your scent on the air. Inhale, and then huffs and goes about her business. She and Pram disappear elsewhere into the city as Bannard and Cleo and the kobolds begin drawing another circle to transport Herschel and Emori.
As Pram sprinted through the city, he made his way back to the Aethera's estate, where he found Shepard. Apparently, an anonymous tip was called in, that the resident of his house was seen aiding government fugitives, so Shepherd's Place, the teleportation circle, and Mrs. Elephant inside have all been impounded or otherwise confiscated. Upon hearing what happened to Emori, Shepherd was quick to open communications with another member of the People's Court.
He reaches into the inside of his jacket and pulls out a crystal ball and sets it down on the table. And he just sort of holds his palms out and does a few hand motions, and it starts to levitate in front of him. Through the ball, you are able to see a cell. The walls are made of some kind of like amber glass, almost like beer bottle glass, specifically. And attached to it, with their wrists manacled above their head attached to the wall, you can see Emori slumped over unconscious. You see the sort of perspective turn, and you see Herschel in the cell across. Oh, they're alive. This is going to be complicated. Okay, actually, I think he pulls out a little item, and it looks like a clamshell mirror, and he opens it. Rising up out of it is the image of a different People's Court member. You see a different porcelain mask. It has upturned crescent eyes. It has a long, thin, black, curly Monopoly mustache. It's wearing a jaunty bowler hat at an angle and has a very high-riding smirk on his face, which gives the illusion of a big chin. And it says, "Shepherd, what can I help you with?" And he says, "Proctor, there's a bit of an issue. Are the ice and fire assets ready yet?" And he says, "Well, they got the package back safely, came back in one piece. I think they're more than capable of defending themselves." And he says, "Are they dragon ready yet?" And he goes, "Ooh, I'll ask them." And he says, "Good, get them ready for teleportation." And Proctor says, "Is it that bad?" And he says, "Indux came into the city." And Proctor goes, "Shit, give me a second." And they close the compact, and he begins carving a teleportation circle into the wooden floor of the Aethera's estate. Hans and Thalminar, you are both in the city of Norkaram. Subterranean and much larger than its population size would indicate, you've grown used to the ominous alleyways and silent stone streets. From here, you've been recuperating after your last job for the People's Court, and planning your next steps in the Sturdy Girder Tavern. You two have a table or are at the bar. Your studying is interrupted, however, by the sound of a throat clearing right next to you, and you look up to see Proctor sitting in your booth. Hello. Hello.
Hey.
I must apologize, my new friends. I thought we might have more time before we called another favor from you, but I'm afraid pressing and lethal matters have arisen. Now require the attention of some prospective dragon slayers.
I'm down to smack a bloody drake.
I suppose I could kill a dragon.
Thank goodness, because we don't have a lot of options. Okay. He's like, if you'll follow me in the alleyway, I gotta make a teleportation circle for you real quick. So, Pram, you see falling over each other into the Aethera's estate, a dwarf and a half-elf, if y'all would like to describe yourselves.
Thalminar is about 6'3", black hair. The right side of his face is, what is that?
Vitiligo.
Vitiligo. And so it's whiter, and then his eye is like this kind of white crystal. The rest of him is maybe like a darker blue purple, and then he has like some streaks of white in his hair.
Hans is a dwarf standing at a proud 4 foot 8 inches.
Hell yeah.
And he's a little on the chunkier side. He's definitely, not a young man. Has dark grayish black hair streaked with silver, well into his years, and has not much of a beard, but a beautiful bushy mustache adorned with small ornaments and shells.
As Pram got his new companions, Hans and Thal, up to speed, miles away, Emori and Herschel woke up in the cold chains and salty, stale atmosphere of Indux's lair once more. Under threat of torture, Emori was questioned on the whereabouts of her other party members. She chose her words carefully, tried to tell truth where she could, and lies to protect her friends, but Indux's minions were clever and discerning, and most of all, cruel. Through pain and exhaustion, neither Herschel nor his captain gave them anything useful, and they seemed to digress after a few hours. Once they were alone, Emori summoned her hammers from her tattoos and used them to break her chains. Meanwhile in Feori, Shepard contacted the People's Court to ask for aid in transporting Hans, Thal, and Ranpram to Indox's lair before it's too late. Soon enough, he was sneaking them outside of the city walls.
Hans, Thal, Pram, you have been snuck to the outskirts of the city of Feori.
Okay, so you're going to go. He pulls out a compass and he says, "Go due north until past a hill, so there's not line of sight to the city,
And then your ride should come and pick you up.
Sick.
His name is Fiangiet. Be very kind to him, and he'll be kind to you."
Right.
I'm known for my hospitality.
Sort of looking around,
until you start to hear."
and you see glinting in the sky, circling and coming lower, a brass dragon, which circles and descends, and sort of lands in front of you, and he says,
Emergence Squadron. Oh, sorry. Who are you?
We're the Greenhorns.
The Greenhorns.
I mean, the newbies.
Oh, right. My name's Fiangiet. He lifts like a big claw to his chest to indicate himself. I'm Fiangiet. Let's go kill a dragon.
lays down, unless you guys start clambering on.
Aboard the great brass dragon Fiangiet, the three new companions set out to save Herschel and Emori, who were staging a daring escape from their cells and fleeing to Indox's bedchambers, which they knew would be empty. Inside, however, they discovered Emori's mother and father, Yvette and John. Unconscious but suspended by their wrists with chains and manacles, Emori hastily brought them down and did what she could to treat their wounds. Upon arrival at the lightning-struck spire that was Indox's lair, Fiangiet told his three passengers to find their friends, and he would search the skies for Indoxa to keep her busy. Pram, Hans, and Thal were quick to discern a way in through a sewer entrance submerged in the lake that surrounds the spire, and began to swim through the narrow underwater tunnels until they reached the interior. Stealthing through emptied barracks and burrows, the team of three made their way to Indox's chambers to find the rest of Emergence tending to the wounded John and Yvette. With hasty introductions of Hans and Thal, they produced healing potions aplenty for Emori's parents and did their best to bring each other up to speed.
As you guys are kind of like prepping and nearing the edge of the throne room, you begin to hear raised voices from the end of the hallway. Maybe one person's peeking through the curtain to see what's going on. You see Bannard and Cleo step out of their rooms into the hallway as a alarm starts sounding, echoing down this entire hallway.
Oh, no.
And you assume down in the barracks as well. They step out and look at each other, because last time this happened, you guys escaped. So they are going to rush into the torture chamber and start going to the prisons. You hear Bannard from the other room just give like a loud shout.
Oh no.
Yeah. Do we want to stack up on the door to bonk them when they walk through?
Yeah.
He turns towards the curtain. Pram,
I
you
just go.
step back. You immediately back up to the edge of the curtain.
I flick a single ball bearing under curtain, and I go, okay, get ready.
Bannard goes, and it echoes up the stairway behind them.
He and Cleo begin walking towards the curtain and go to sweep it open.
Exhausted from the torture, Emori and Herschel step wearily in front of John and Yvette to protect them. Emergence had the drop on Indox's minions, who themselves hadn't had much rest since their previous encounter. That, alongside the strength of their new companions, gave Emergence a strong fighting chance. Hans wielding radiant fire from a crystal staff, Thalminar with a blade and icy magics at his side. Cleo and Bannard found themselves quickly outmatched, unconscious and bleeding out on the floor. With Hans and Thal's magic and the established route through the sewers, all of Emergence soon found themselves swimming back out the sewer grate into the lake surrounding the tower, completely undetected. High in the sky, amidst strikes of lightning and plumes of flame casting shadows on the clouds, Emergence could just make out the two dragons fighting.
Bek, more time has passed since you last saw the party than since the party last saw you. Soon after you said your goodbyes, you and Conroy found yourselves under attack and outnumbered. In a moment of desperation, you retrieved Yorick's key and not knowing what to do, made a forward motion like you were placing it into a lock and turned it. Sure enough, once there was nothing, there now sat an ancient stone archway holding a rugged wooden door.
You and Conroy were both pulled behind the veil, where you were able to speak with Yorick and Alaz, as well as other entities. We see you after your time behind the veil, returning to the material plane. You're alone. Conroy was sent back to Azatu shortly after meeting Yorick, and Yorick and Alaz have other business to deal with. How much time has passed for Bek?
10 years. About a month.
A month, okay.
Yeah.
What might have changed since the last time we saw Bek?
Well, Bek is 6'1", sort of slightly tannish dude with he's clean shaven now in his bright blues and golds, with his tabard with white candle with the golden flame.
Yes, I believe so.
Symbol of a ludus
Yes.
on it, and he's got his big radiant smile. His eyes are now blue, no longer have the gold.
At the end of your time behind the veil, you were warned that your friends were in grave danger, and that you would be transported to Temperance, the nearest and strongest anchor for all of your party. It's literally made of all of their blood. You were given a little wooden box by Yorick engraved with roses and hastily pushed through an archway that suddenly appeared behind you with very little explanation, as Yorick is wont to do.
And there is a great rushing of wind, and you exit onto stone brick flooring, nearly stumbling into a set of metal shelves. You appear to be in some kind of organized storage room. It's lined with shelves full of bins, boxes, crates, chests, pots, urns, and containers of every shape and size and material. And they are all organized and labeled. Inside the little box is just metal rattling, and you open it up and you see a key that has a small scrap of parchment tied around the spine of it.
I take off the parchment and read it.
You unroll the scrap of parchment and see words inking themselves into the page in Yorick's handwriting,
Which says,
well, ellipses, this is unideal. It should be fine.
take a right, then your last left. Mrs. Elephant should be there. Use this key, don't get caught or held up. XOXO, Yorick.
Candor, searching his new surroundings, managed to find a lockbox containing everything that was inside Mrs. Elephant when it was impounded, including Temperance. With stealth and some quick charm work on the guard, Bek slipped out of evidence lockup and entered the Starkwood Constabulary's underground garage, where he found Mrs. Elephant. Stepping inside, and realizing he didn't really know how to drive this kind of vehicle, Bek felt a presence behind him.
You sit down, you place Yorick's key into the ignition of Mrs. Elephant, but before you can turn it, you hear a voice behind you from within the vehicle itself.
And where have you been?
And you turn and see Carubiel. He wears burnt orange robes with emerald embroidery forming sigils along the trim. Beneath the robe, you cannot see skin, only polished golden armor and strips of silken fabric like bandages wrapped around his entire body. He's around 9 to 10 feet tall in this form, but he's like crumpled in on himself so he can sit in the back seat.
And his head is fully encased in a featureless, mirrored golden helmet or mask, and it's cocked to one side as he regards you. He says, I've been trying to reach you regarding your Landau's extended warranty, and you've been on another plane of existence or something. Because I can reach most people just about anywhere in the universe, but I couldn't reach you, which is very interesting to me. What have you been up to?
I was indisposed. I was regaining my faith. You know, I would really like that back. Gesturing to the staff.
I'm sure you would. You gave it over fair and square.
What could you possibly have to offer in exchange for this?
My big jugs. Thank you, Garrett.
Tempting as that may be.
You must remember who you belong to, Candor.
I plucked your miserable soul out of Amanelda's clutches, off the path that would lead you into Jogiltane's icy grip, and I gave you the power to save your friends. You owe me.
What do I owe you?
I've yet to decide. Things are in motion, of course. The time shall come soon.
Bek rolls his eyes.
He says, so quick.
To run back to the people that banished you. In your moment of need, when your life got turned upside down, you risked life and limb and soul
To get them where they are safely. And they repay you by turning you away. And now you hear they've gotten themselves into trouble again, and you come running.
What are friends for?
He is stalling. He knows the party is in danger, and he wants to keep you away as long as possible.
All right, shoo. And he's gonna just get into the driver's seat and start the ignition.
He can come with.
Let's go.
He just chuckles to himself, and he says, "I'll call you soon."
Back outside in Doxa's lair, Emergence found themselves fending off kobolds at a long distance as they begin to sprint away, hoping Fiangiet might regroup and take them up into the sky. But their stomachs filled with dread as they saw the brass dragon plummet through the cloud layer, trailing mist and blood and scales. He impacts and impales on the wicked, pointed glass spire of Endoxa's lair. With his last breath, he gave Emergence a blessing to aid in their escape, and as if on cue, Mrs. Elephant came roaring and screeching to a halt out of a flash of golden light, a car-sick Candor behind the wheel. With no time to mourn, the party grouped inside Mrs. Elephant, Emori taking the wheel and Ranpram sitting in the harpoon launcher. As they tore away from the spire and into the derelict plains, they were terrified to see the great blue dragon in Doxa Stormheart in her true form for the first time. In her claws was an enormous nest-like construction that seemed to be filled with dragonkin, kobolds, and larger, and on her back were Komakov, Levance, and Cleo. The chase that followed was one of flying harpoons, jets of radiant flame, raining kobolds, and blasts of lightning breath, electrifying everyone inside Mrs. Elephant. Once, twice, repeatedly, Doxa charged her breath weapon from afar, and Bek sought to fix it. He whipped an enchanted dagger through the air and up into Doxa's neck, after which the enchantment teleported Bek onto her back, surrounded by her 3 minions. Rather than attacking them, Bek planted Temperance into Doxa's hide under his feet, sending all of them tumbling out of the sky. With the dragonkin taken care of, Pram wheeled the harpoon launcher around and delivered the finishing blow into the grounded blue dragon. With Doxa dead, the storm overhead seemed to break in response, growing calm and still. After taking time to loot the bodies, loot the lair, and tend to their wounds, Emergence captured Komakov, Levance, and Cleo to face proper justice from the people they had wronged. They traveled to Jermont to find most of their citizens, especially warriors and magic users, missing their hands, the tax taken by Doxa and her minions. They delivered the culprits of this heinous crime for whatever judgment the citizens deemed fit. They spent the night and left the next morning, and while on the road, Thal received a vision from his patron.
No bad dreams, DM, thank you.
Speaking of which, Thal. Sleep takes you. It's a trance-like sleep. The darkness of slumber, however, gives way to a dimly illuminated room. And your eyes kind of focus to see you're sat at a round wooden table, almost like you'd find at like a fancy tavern or something. It's got felt over the top of it. The room you're in has like a hewn stone floor, but the walls and ceiling are just darkness. A mist and a liquid, it kind of laps and undulates at the edges of the floor as if it could come crashing in at any moment. And sitting across the table from you, you see the felt bowler hat and the silvery white moonlight gloves of the dealer.
Well played. I knew I could rely on you.
Wasn't the first dragon I've killed?
Correct. First one that counted, though. Well, 2. But you didn't do that first one.
Why am I here?
I'm here to reward you. And as he says that, you hear whispers emanating seemingly from the mist itself. But it seems all around, ever present. And he sort of pauses and listens for a moment.
The dealer confessed that he and his compatriots, the Whispers behind the walls, had placed a wager with each other as to the outcome of Thal's destiny. Happenstance, here meaning the deck of many things, had dubbed Thal as a slayer of dragons. The dealer wagered that Thal would be able to slay every dragon that claims territory and dominion over Eranos, and his compatriots wagered for or against. As such, the dealer confessed, he was under strict restraints as to the rewards and gifts he might normally bestow to one of his followers. His compatriots would allow him to answer one question. Thal considered carefully.
How many dragons do I have to kill?
You can see his cheeks kind of raise as his cigar flares, but you can never see his full face. You've killed 2 of 6. You have 4 remaining.
Fuck.
And you look down at your brand, and you see it has changed slightly.
I see.
It's a bit of a stretch giving you credit for old Fifi, but
Yeah.
I've spoken with them, and they said it counts for now.
Thal awoke to find his brand had indeed changed, assumedly sometime after Ndoksa and Fiankiyet's deaths. It was strange to finally have an end to his exile in sight, knowing that failure or death might mean a punishment more severe than the death itself. The party became much better acquainted with new and old members while on the road, with Bek catching his friends up on where he'd been. He admitted that while he was reconnected with Ludus like never before, he still technically owed Kerubiel a favor, a very open-ended debt. They made a pit stop at Maplecrest, where they received gifts from Keeper Udain, and Bek stopped at their house of worship to give prayer to the Imlir. While surveying the idols and altars that the church had, Bek noted several missing, and tried to recall them from memory.
You can have Bek make a religion check if you'd like.
14.
14? You don't understand much about the Harbinger. From what you've heard, it's like an equivalent to our real-world association with the Death card in Tarot, where people see it and they go, ooh, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. You remember depictions of him being a humanoid with the body of an orc and the head of a bear. And he was associated with things like war and strength and survival. And mainly kind of an indomitable human spirit kind of thing. But he went about it in the way of like making sure everyone knows shit can get real bad if you're not keeping the ship tight. And the ship being society, companionship, teamwork amongst people, it's everything. Is crucial to, he all sees it as part of survival.
Bek is super into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Symbol, a circle with a horizontal line crossing just below the halfway point, and there's a semicircle cut off by that line, and one triangle in the far distance, like on the far left, and it's meant to represent just a flat, arid, barren, like wasteland with sun setting behind it and
Gotcha.
a mountain in the distance.
All right.
And it's meant to be a symbol of like, look what can happen, and it's desolation.
Yeah. Okay.
They were soon well on their way through the rolling grassy hills toward Feori, when Bek's nightly prayers were interrupted by a dream or vision. He saw Jexa, the Harbinger himself, a bare-headed man taller than any mountain, and when Bek awoke, he began to feel a familiar pull near his heart, pulling in a specific direction. The last time he felt something like this was near Open Arch, when he met Kerubiel. Following the strange sensation, the party came across a strange encampment several miles outside of Feori.
You notice the thin plume of white smoke is indeed a fire. You see a camp. Humanoids, orc, goblins, hobgoblins. You see half-orcs, bugbears, and many of them are moving around cargo. They're working on or maintaining sort of rudimentary weapons. And you see wagons being pulled into the camp like a supply train. You see one of the wagons has enormous tarps over it, hauling some large amount of cargo, and then the other one is a covered wagon in the sense that it's transporting people. And you see climbing out of them some 10 or so lizard folk. Thal, you would know lizard folk inhabit the jungles of the Wyvern's Tail archipelago. They don't really go out to the islands much, but you can see them fishing occasionally along the shores and stuff. So yeah, you're accustomed to these. But yeah, you see vibrant scales, you see some befeathered. All of them have an acid-burned brand on their chest, on their face, on their shoulders, anywhere. And they kind of unload and hiss at each other, and you see several important-looking sort of captains they approach and begin speaking with them. And Beck, you know this to be the place you were being pulled. And as you're scanning across, your eyes affix to one banner they have decided to selfishly fly outside of what appears to be a command tent. You see a circle of fishhook-like shapes with a line through it that you guys recognize.
This is familiar, yes.
But beneath it, a second flag bearing the symbol of the Harbinger. That barren wasteland circle with the horizontal line across it as well. And suddenly you think you might know why you're here, or at least have some inkling.
Rather than subterfuge, Emori and Beck decided to enter the camp as peacefully as possible and attempt diplomacy. They were allowed to enter, noting that almost all of the camp's residents seemed to be transmuted or altered by the elements somehow. Goblins made of mud and smoke, orcs that channel lightning, hobgoblins wielding flame itself. Inside the command tent was a full-blooded orc made entirely of metal, who called himself Borim. Before him on a table were sketched plans for an assault on Feori, which he politely covered. Cleverly, Beck stuck to partial truths and honesty instead of needless lies. He confessed he felt a connection to Jexa the Harbinger and was drawn to their camp by what must be Jexa's will.
He says to you, well, the host is an army raised in the name of Jexa the Harbinger, who has been reborn in animated form, in material form.
Oh?
Yes, he leads us, he commands us.
He's been reborn. He's in physical form on Eranos.
Yes, by the name of Zavoya Vatel.
Zavoya Vatel, okay.
He leads us.
Interesting. So
Isn't Jexa less of a war deity and more of a survivalist?
Jexa shows us the environment in which we flourish, in which our kind survive.
in a wasteland,
Yes.
you don't think that having more resources would lead to less fighting?
I think there are many kinds of strength.
I agree.
There are many kinds of might which can contribute to that law. Political, social. But at the end of the day, metal is metal, a blade is a blade. Empires can topple with words, let alone weapons.
From my understanding of Jex's teachings, which I'll give you, is not very complex. Jexa is, yes, as Emori said, about survival, about warnings, and about rallying together when put up against a great force, when put up against potential cataclysm. So is reborn on Eranos now, is he gathering you all to go up against some potential cataclysm? Is there something coming?
Before his rebirth, Jexa was worshipped by the common folk. And I think he says common folk in Orcish, and he says it like a slur. Would call to Jexa for the strength to prevent disaster. These prayers were not in his proper image, which is why he nearly found dissolution after the cataclysm, and his worshippers were wiped away. Those left were worshipping him improperly, you see. They had the wrong ideals and domains in mind when they called out to him. They never reached. But we, few, who have interpreted his will, have been chosen to receive his new host, his reincarnation into this material world. He to us was the calamity, was the oncoming storm. He was that beast that we would find within us to accomplish what we needed to survive, what we needed to flourish out here. And once we have done that, then we have found ourselves truly. Once we have found this, he discovered us, he found us, he came into our camp, he overthrew our leader with ease, he bestowed upon us many gifts, and he gestures to his own skin, and he imbues us with might and inspiration even now, as we bring about his new era. Yes, there is a coming of a cataclysm. We're here.
with Thalminar and Ranpram stealthing around the back of the camp, and Hans wild-shaped into an owl overhead. Emori and Bek gathered valuable intel. They learned of the black dragon called Naubanax, who claims dominion over the Wyvern's Tail, apparently allied with the host, who would be all too pleased to hear Indoxa is dead, and his competition for her domain had vanished. With some well-chosen words and endearing honesty, Bek managed to at least somewhat convince this leader of the so-called Host of the Harbinger that he and his friends were sent by Jexa himself, and as such, it would be against his will to capture or kill them. He let them go peacefully. After regrouping and getting back on the road to Feori as quickly as possible, Emori attempted to radio Roderick and deliver some kind of warning, but had to settle for the Wayrider agent on the other end of the line. As they approached the city itself, no longer protected by its enchanted dome, the party split up to avoid all of them being captured. Hans, Thal, and Pram had less affiliation with the party and were unlikely to be recognized, so they found their way into the city in secret, through the sparsely guarded and crumbling walls, while Bek, Herschel, Emori, and her parents were all met at the front gate. Chronicle Squadron, fellow Wayriders, apologetically clapped manacles on Emergence's wrists and ankles, and drove them up the mountainside to the top, where sat the Curia Telecos, the highest government building in Feori, where the Telecos Council convenes, and the worst criminals are tried and punished.
The inside of the Curia Telecos is vast and empty. There's a grand antechamber with high ceilings and wood flooring, curved marble staircases, and engraved tables and bookcases lining the walls and corners of the room, leaving the main walkways and thoroughfares off-puttingly bare. Emori, you might have been in this building before. I don't know if you've ever been in, like, the council courtroom. Instead of leading you up the stairs, they take you behind the stairs, and there is a set of wooden steps that lead downward. The lead Centurion pulls the chain as he descends while the others surround the staircase and urge the rest of you forward. Down the wooden steps is a kind of storage basement cobbled with stone tile. Once all of you are off the steps, the lead Centurion approaches a wall devoid of furniture, instead displaying a tapestry depicting Feori's domed cityscape under a night sky. He touches the tips of his gauntleted fingers to the pinkish dome on the fabric and, without saying a word, walks straight through it, and seemingly through the stone wall behind it as well. And he pulls the chain hard, kind of commanding the rest of you to follow. You emerge into a strange metal room, just large enough for all of you and your captors. Once all of you are inside, the lead Centurion pulls a lever, and the entire room shudders before beginning to descend. You see the stone bricks of the wall you just walked through give way to rough natural rock as the room/elevator drops at an uncomfortable speed for many minutes. Eventually, you feel your stomachs drop as the brakes are applied and you come to a thudding stop far beneath where you once started. The lead Centurion exits and pulls you with him into an enormous cavern, so vast you can't make out the ceiling or some of the walls as they're consumed by darkness.
As Emergence were being taken somewhere sinister, Hans, Pram, and Thalminar regrouped at the Aethir's estate, where they found Shepard as well. With his help and Mr. Aethir's resources, they donned disguises and drove covered buggies up to the Curia, where they managed to slip by unsuspected and begin searching for their friends. Deep below, despite their struggles, Emori and Bek could not escape their chains and found themselves in a strange chamber with machinery, both clockwork and arcane, built into the walls, but everything had an alien, organic quality to it. Their attention was arrested by a strange, humanoid automaton entering the chamber. It drifted weightlessly toward them, its face little more than a metal grill surrounded by cables and a bulbous glass jar with a swollen, purplish brain suspended inside.
The automaton sort of gazes to each of you and says,
"This room has been equipped with many protections. My units have been equipped with many protections. Your bindings are equipped with many protections. You will find escape from here quite difficult to achieve. Many mightier than you have tried and failed to resist conversion. Data suggests you would be no different."
What's conversion?
You are here because of the knowledge you possess. To provide you with further knowledge would be a poor strategy on my part, as it would only further ensure the necessity of the current course of action, and a poor strategy on your part, as it would only further provide the necessity for my current course of action.
They're nulling our mind, Beck.
With a gesture, the drone-like Centurions strapped Emergence down onto strange surgical-like tables, the sinister automaton watching over it all. At least, that's what I remember happening. Right? Hold on, what was it? It's weird. My notes on these sessions must have been corrupted or something. Maybe I'll just play back the episode after they got strapped down to the tables. You can't quite remember what happened, but let's focus on the now. So we see our heroes in the early hours of morning. Sunlight spills in syrupy golden rays, illuminating the simple tavern room of the Hardy Hobbit. Spread out to 2 or 3 a room, we see Emori, Yvette, and Thal in one room, and Ranpram, Hans, and Beck in the neighboring one. The raucous snores and rumblings of ale-soaked sleep fill each room, some still wearing their armor, strapped with equipment crumpled at awkward angles in their beds. So yes, Hans, you are the first to awaken. Eyes still rolling in your head as your eyelids kind of flutter open and you gain bearing on the ceiling. You feel a great headache. You feel incredibly sluggish
Can
and
I
sore.
roll my dwarven constitution to see how hungover I feel?
Sure, yeah.
You have advantage.
Natural 20
Natural
plus
20.
4 constitution. I'm a dwarf, so I'm resistant to poison, if that matters.
You know
Alcohol's
this
kind of
feeling.
poison.
You know the aftermath of a drinking competition when you feel it.
This is like in my soul. I
Yes.
feel it with a nat 20.
Yes, it rings within you naturally.
Okay. That's right. Yeah, that must be right. So Emergence wakes up from a drunken stupor in the Hardy Hobbit Tavern. Shaking each other awake, they can vaguely recall a tense confrontation with the masked Telecos Council, and after pleading their case and warning of the incoming siege, they were pardoned and placed on a strict probation. Upon returning, the party wanted to celebrate and sojourned to the tavern for a drinking competition, which Yvette handily won. Emori and Beck's stabbing migraines were accompanied by flashes of alien machinery, bruising bindings, and cold steel under their backs. But when voiced, none of their companions seemed to know what they were talking about. It was shaken off as some kind of drink-fueled dream. Beck and Emori, in preparation for the coming siege, spent a portion of their newfound fortune from Indoxa's hoard on new equipment, healing potions, and magic items. But Pram, Hans, and Thal were insistent that they take at least one day to relax and decompress. They spent their money on spa and massage treatments and paid for a trip to the local bonesmith for a readjustment. Beck and Emori finished early, so they took the new party equipment to Herschel's home, which they had never visited before. He greeted them and made coffee, and while talking he opened up more about the secretive organization he works for, the Prophetic Monastery. He told them that the monastery's purpose is to decipher an ancient prophecy, one that had been foretold by many seers over many centuries. He hadn't read it, not many in the monastery had permission, but he assumed to foretell something terrible. He believes this because the mission of agents like himself, and like his sister Kalia, was to act as the monastery's eyes, ears, and guiding hands. They were both tasked with nudging their squadrons onto the path of heroism, into doing good and selfless deeds for others. That was the mission. While deep in conversation as to the monastery's plans for the party, Beck and Emori picked up on something odd.
Where were you?
Where are any of us, really?
Look at Herschel.
I think you need to relax.
What's
Take the
going
load off.
on?
Is that?
I don't know.
Herschel?
What are
Seem
they talking
tense.
about?
Why does
This is
everybody
the
keep
response he
telling
gives.
me to calm down? I break something.
What? Okay, now you do need to relax, because that's like my shit.
I draw my weapon.
Yeah.
I draw my weapon. You need to relax.
Emori, let's go.
I'm going to try and block the door.
Herschel's like, what's happening? What? You stand to the doorway as Beck is making for the door.
I have trust issues. Move.
Can I cast a spell?
Mind split yourself.
Yeah.
What spell you want to cast? Hold person?
Monster?
Yeah, you take like a firm step forward as you're drawing your sword, and then you suddenly tense up like you're paralyzed. Your eyes can still move.
To relax.
I look to Herschel again. Sleeping dragon?
He closes his eyes and opens them again and says, all right. He walks up to you, Thal, and puts a hand on your shoulder and sort of gently nods his head. And he closes the door behind you. And you're still on the inside. Everyone is. And he looks at Beck, who's kind of frozen, and he says, now if we could just all... I know you don't want to be told to relax.
I'm sorry about your table.
Take a breath. It's okay about the table. We have mending.
I release the spell.
Okay.
And
I finished drawing my sword.
It's held out at the side at the ready. Now, I'm going to tell y'all some more exposition. Is that all right? The business in the sewers. This was my organization's work.
You son of a bitch!
What?
I believe they are trying to build some kind of... They're putting down ley lines to sort of wrap the city in magic, to move it elsewhere.
You got Coromant killed. Your organization got Coromant killed.
Yes, they did.
You have the talking hammer. How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty shitty.
Okay,
I feel
good.
happy I'm
Yes.
no longer an operative for them. But I also sure as hell don't want to get on the wrong side of them if I can help it. Especially when they're still got my sister.
What's going on? I haven't really seen a lot of people.
She recounted the city seemed unusually empty. The dome was up once more, despite being down when they arrived, and both she and Beck swore that Hans, Thal, and Pram were definitely not in the room when this conversation began. Despite Herschel's diplomacy and apparent honesty, and the rest of the party's constant reminders and suggestions to relax, Beck's paranoia boiled over first. He attempted magic to try to force Herschel to remember what only Beck and Emori seemed to recall in flashes, and upon doing so, Herschel simply stood and drew his weapon. Emergence all clashed with each other, with Emori and Beck fending off Hans, Thal, Ranpram, and Herschel all at once. The squadron fought tooth and nail, blade and magic, but the four traitors had grievously wounded Emori within a matter of moments. All the while, Herschel chewed sinister words through gritted teeth, telling her that Yorick was right, that he was always holding back, that he'd been waiting for this for a long time. Emori cast Beck a terrified look, trying to gauge if they should run, if Beck was turning on her too, but just as they locked eyes, he seemed to vanish into thin air. In the span of a blink, he was gone with no trace, and Emori was confused and alone as her doppelganger squadron closed in around her. Bruised, broken, bleeding, and betrayed once more, Emori regarded Herschel, who looked much the same.
I just look at him with like just so much disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
I say, you know, I was really, really hoping Yorick was wrong. And then I do a final stab like right into his chest, and I get like really close to him, like intimate, like a friend.
He
letting
leaves
go.
bloody handprints all over your forearm and elbow
Yes.
as he like clutches you, and then he kind of collapses down in a sitting position in the chair.
Yeah, and then I turn around to the foes behind me,
Gotcha.
and I'm gonna action surge.
Chat, clip that.
Just as Emori suffered yet more stab wounds, alive on pure orcish adrenaline, she blinks and is suddenly somewhere else. She's in the alien chamber once more, dreamily familiar. Everything, starting from waking up hungover in the hardy hobbit, had been false, perhaps an induced dream or illusion. The conversion chamber, as it had been called by the automaton, was full of smoke and rubble, as Hans, Thal, and Pram had been battling Centurions this whole time to reach the party. It seemed Ranpram had discovered a way to disable the machines, keeping Bek and Emori sedated, and helped them to their feet, as the automaton, Akval, turned to face them.
You feel an immense headache and a sudden upheaval of the world around you, and when you open your eyes again, you're intaking smoky air as you're looking around and coughing. You see Centurions, you see Abraham, and then you see Pram sort of looking over you and making sure you're actually conscious as you wake up, which you are, fully conscious.
You real?
Your wrist and leg restraints open, and you slide off of this thing, sort of crumple, but get to your feet. And as this happened, Akval, almost reflexively, his hands pull back from the keyboard, almost like it shocked him. It looks to Pram, it looks to Emori, it looks to John and Yvette, and with one more key press, it says,
Conversion complete.
It is going to use a legendary action. You see movements of its metal hands that look like plane shift as a
seam opens up behind it,
and it says,
I shall return.
And it steps through and closes up, and immediately you hear an alarm begin to sound, and yes, indeed, the Centurions shut down. Stare at each other, some of you coming to consciousness just now, some of you still looking around. This alarm begins to sound. Any doors that were open have shut, and you take stock and see as Yvette and John are still firmly attached to the tables, unconscious.
With Akval gone, and the Centurions seemingly disabled, the party quickly removed John and Yvette's bindings before hurriedly tending to their wounds with the aid of magic and potions. They decided there and then they would delve deeper into this complex to retrieve Herschel. Quietly, they crept through the tunnels, forced to open doors via strength of thought rather than lock and key. The alien machinery was worked into every surface, and each room alluded to a strange or sinister purpose. On the path, they discovered many Centurions sitting on their bunks, awaiting orders. They came across a large chamber labeled in Primordial as a data repository, with familiar pylons or pillars with glowing gemstones all worked into the walls, ceiling, and floor. More strange automatons of a different make seemed to peruse and survey the pylons like librarians sorting the stacks. Ranpram risked slipping inside and managed to interface with one of the pillars. They seemingly contained memories, each gemstone from a different person, and Pram remembered similar pylons in Ozatu under the church. He searched and searched and eventually found the one with Herschel's memories. He pocketed it, exited unseen, and rejoined the party. They all felt the pressure of time, and the injuries Emori and Bek suffered in the simulation seemed to have translated to psychic or mental damage in the real world. They were left just as broken and exhausted, but without the wounds to show for it. Just when the walls felt like they were closing in, and the tunnels seemed to never end, they discovered a row of prison cells, with Herschel sitting in the final one. He didn't recognize them. He was fearful of them. He almost tried to fight off Emori as she approached. With reassurance and honesty, they convinced him to come along. And after rejoining with Yvette and John, Hans drew on his druidic powers to provide an escape. The entire party were transmuted into fog, mist, and vapor, allowing them to breeze unseen through the subterranean complex, up the elevator shaft, and back out to freedom over Feori, making it to the Aethir's estate just in time to collapse from exhaustion. The next days weren't spent in mere recovery. With the siege on the horizon and the streets full of potentially converted guards and civilians, they had to lay lower than ever before. Emergence quietly prepared, sending Aethira's servants in their stead, or disguising themselves before ever leaving the house. Getting the shopping they did in the simulation out of the way in the real world, including a few extra special items, crafted by Emori's father, John, using materials from Indoxa. For days they laid in wait, planning, and all the while Emori couldn't shake the feeling that the siege and the corruption under the council had something to do with each other. She decided they should split up to cover more ground. One team above, bracing for the siege, and the other below in the sewers, to anticipate an attack from beneath.
Roderick has had people surveying the surrounding hills. They've seen a party begin setting up camp. They've seen these forces. They describe 2 trebuchets and no ballista.
Ooh.
Who is in the sewers and who is on the siege team? So, sewer team, Emori, Pram, and Thalminar.
Yeah.
And then siege team, Bek and Hans and Herschel and Nadia and Yvette and all of them are going up top. Gotcha. Y'all split up and begin staking out, preparing for the siege to arrive.
And we are looking for a thing.
As you all are staking out, sending messages to each other, checking in, being like, no, I haven't seen anything yet. Emori, you get a message from Malmani that says, the assault has begun. They are attempting to break through our defenses here and Ozatu as well. Bek, up top, you get a message from Shepard that says, they're attacking Visage. There's 5 times the numbers. And then you hear screams and explosions from the city. As in the dead of night, stars above you wink in and out of view as boulders from the trebuchet are thrown and land with destructive impact onto the hillside of Feori's mountain and then begin to roll down the slope.
The sewer crew made their way through the tunnels in an attempt to reach the chambers where Coromand was killed. They found it heavily disguised with powerful illusions, and upon entering they were met with yet another automaton guarding the path, denying them entry and attacking as they refused to leave. The large boxy machine spewed fire and swiped long blades and lances through the chamber, but the 4 seasoned warriors were more than a match for the infernal engine. They left it smoking and sputtering in a heap, only for a voice to call their attention from behind. Akval, the humanoid machine that had overseen their conversion, now seemed to approach with an air of diplomacy and negotiation. The party had proven their resilience and strength, and Akval admitted they could be of use to him, or at the very least allying with them may prove more efficient than remaining enemies. He was strict and unyielding, claiming his programming prevented him from divulging too much intel, but if the party made a verbal contract to peacefully aid him in his mission, he could speak more freely. All this time, Ranpram took it upon himself to slip into the shadows and back out of the room. He wasn't sure what the plan was, but there was one thing he felt certain of. Brainwashers can't be trusted. He made his way back through the sewers alone as Emori negotiated and begrudgingly agreed to help Akval with his mission, under the condition that Feori and all of its civilians remain unharmed and free of Akval's influence. Emori, Thal, and Alice were led into a different section of the underground complex as Akval explained his mission to them. He claimed to be a creation of the Illithid, an ancient people that once lived on Eranos in the Primordial Age. He stated the Illithid were once powerful mages and artificers, but were punished for placing their own works over that of their creator gods, who stripped them of their ability to naturally reproduce, as penance. In response, the Illithid's technology only advanced, and soon they made an arcane machine, encoded with their essence capable of parasitically producing a new, fully formed Illithid. The gods' punishments only grew in severity, and the Illithid people sought to leave this material plane for another, so they might find a home of their own. But the gods, angry and vengeful, smote them out of the sky, swallowed their crafts in the earth, and grew vast mountains and forests as the only headstones. The underground complex Emergence found themselves in was one such Illithid craft, heavily damaged and under repair, but inextricably buried under Feori's mountain with no hope of removal. Akval claimed that each ship contained around 1,000 surviving Illithid in astral stasis, organic and unaltered, unlike himself. His mission was to deliver this cargo safely to the Astral Sea, and since the Illithid craft can't be removed from the mountain, he has been working diligently to simply convert the mountain itself. All of it, the Arcanite going missing in the city, the government funneling all material gold into mysterious construction projects, the ley lines being drilled through the sewers, it was all in an effort to transport the entire mountain and its inhabitants into the Astral Sea. Emori asserted there must be an alternative, and Akval was more than open to hear new ideas, but until a new course of action was found, he could not abandon his current efforts. he was insistent on a deadline. He claimed that the divine aura had been detected, signaling the return of the gods that created his people, that created this world, and he insisted the Illithid must not be here when this comes to pass. Meanwhile, above ground, Bek and Hans soar through the sky as the siege begins, sprinting or flying or teleporting, all in an effort to halt the destructive momentum of several house-sized boulders that had been lobbed at the mountainside. Bek using the strength of his mind and body, Hans wielding magic to entangle or entrap them before they could destroy more shops and homes. At the base of the mountain, just outside the exterior walls, a great shimmering dome like a bubble seemed to grow and form out of nothing, but not around the city. Contained within were the forces of the host, with multiple trebuchets being primed to fire once more. Once the boulders were stopped, Hans and Bek sped down the mountainside to meet them in battle. Beneath their feet, Ranpram came across a section of sewer that seemed to have been burrowed into through the earth itself. Following the trail of rubble and footprints, he discovered a pack of host soldiers, making their way to an exit to the surface of the city streets. Panicked, he tried to give warning, and continued his search for an entrance to the Illithid complex, eventually returning to the remains of the infernal engine, to find the doorway open as Centurions flow in and out. One with the shadows, Ranpram slipped inside, and began searching for the most important and central room he could find, slipping a carefully constructed white arcanite bomb out of his pocket. On the battlefield above, Hans and Bek arrived to reinforce the other Wayriders, battling soldiers of the host and their transmuted beasts. The bubble surrounding their siege equipment also protected their leader, as Borim paced and shouted commands from within. The bubble was iridescent, and so radiant it risked temporarily blinding anyone who got too close. All attempts to damage it seemed futile, arrows and spears burning and breaking on impact, spells fizzle and deflect off of its surface. That is, until Emori's voice entered Bek's mind through their newly bought sending stones, updating Bek and Hans on the negotiations with Akval, and telling them he's analyzed the bubble and found its weaknesses. A bullet-pointed list followed, specific weaknesses for each layer of the powerful arcane bubble, and round by round, they peeled them back. Emori, Thal, and Alice were led up an escape tunnel to the surface and rushed to join Bek and Hans on the battlefield, just in time to help pop the bubble once and for all, allowing Borim to join the fray. His metal form shifted as he fought, expanding and contracting like a spring of tightly coiled metal bands with a razor's edge. But the Wayriders proved more than a match for the host's forces, and Emergence personally handled their steel commander. Meanwhile, Ranpram, after discovering more than one secret or restricted entrance, found a large and spherical room with machines like beating hearts and pumping lungs faceted into every wall. He deemed this room important enough, after a panicked once-over, set the Arcanite bomb to 1 minute, and tossed it off the catwalk before making his escape.
It's fitting that I'm gonna end up dying because I'm not a good enough skill monkey.
Do you have any garbage in your backpack that gives you buffs?
Not for this.
So,
no, because this is just something I'm not that good at.
So 18.
It's just 18.
18, gotcha. So yeah, you are flying your way back up all the hallways that you went through before. You're thinking at doors long before you reach them, attempting to get your way through. You're finding yourself having to start and stop a few times, more than you would expect, until you start coming across guards rushing out of their barracks. Everything, now that the alarm is going off, is starting to spill into the halls, including Akval. This construct does see you as it's moving, and it is going to cast a spell on you because you failed that save. I need you to make an intelligence saving throw.
Good thing you're good at intellect.
This is DC 19.
Oh,
What's that on the
Did you roll
intelligence
worse?
saving throw?
I rolled a 3.
Ooh.
You dunce.
I'm god. Yeah, I only got 10.
10?
10.
That's a failure.
Yeah.
Taking mental damage.
You take 12 psychic.
Okay.
Your charisma and intelligence become 1.
Oh, God.
As Akval casts Feeble Mind.
on the intruder attempting to escape. Creature cannot cast spells, understand language, or communicate in any intelligible way. However, Akval is psionic, so he knows exactly what you're thinking and feeling. A dark and foul magic, the likes of which Ranpram had never seen in his many years on this continent, although those years seemed to vanish in a cloud of fog, alongside most of his higher thought. Although he lacked his facilities, Ranpram was still equipped with a cloak made for the party by John, the Stormheart's Cowl. Its blue dragon hide animates at the wearer's command and assumes the shape of membranous wings. With these wings, he escaped Akval's grasping talons and evaded capture all the way out of the complex into the sky, his fear and instincts screaming to head for safety, to head for home. On the ground, as the siege came to a close and the city went into damage control, Emergence was hurriedly contacted and found by Shepard.
Oh, thank goodness you're all okay. Where's Pram?
The fuck if I know. We need to go find him. Last we left was closer to the sewers.
Visage has been taken.
Fuck.
God damn it.
The army that took the city was much larger than any of the others at Cronalia or Azatu. Beck, your mother, Ophelia, is fine. Hugo and Chipper managed to get her and Tic Tac to safety, but Hugo fell, holding back the host, while Chipper pulled the civilians through the arcane gates.
We pour one out for Hugo.
What? Not only that, but Chipper is no longer responding. And as Shepard says that, you watch his mask, this porcelain sheep's face, begin blinking with a blue-green light. He seems surprised by this and reaches up and pulls it off of his face. As surprised as you are at seeing his face, he is fixated on looking at the inside of his own mask. And you follow his gaze and see images beginning to take shape on the warped inner surface of the mask itself. Shepard says, it's Chipper, he's still in Visage. And he turns the mask and the images on the inside are projected onto the ground. You all see flashes of moving images, fire, and plumes of smoke. You see the hands and arms of Chipper, as if the illusion you're all seeing is from the point of view of the eyes of Chipper's mask. He's sprinting through the streets, seemingly, at least partially, invisible or unnoticed by the host. You watch as Chipper moves through the black and white district, making a break for the palace, until Chipper is now climbing the many spiral stairs leading up to the throne room. Dead Mirage guards litter the halls, and the stairwells are dripping with a slow river of blood. Upon reaching the door to the throne room, Chipper goes ghostly silent and eerily still, before seeming to turn into vapor or gas, as Emergent Squadron has done once before. You follow his perspective through the crack in the door, revealing a throne room. A large, orcish man, 9 feet tall, sits on the steps before a large throne in the Visagi Palace. Tattoos of violet, blue, oranges, and bright greens cross his skin like ley lines, mingling with the myriad scars of war, making the violet glow of his eyes all the more stark. The throne has a corpse in it, lithe and lanky, with skin in shades of oceans and rivers, with great pointed ears, 2 sets of lightless, lifeless eyes, and 2 sets of arms limp at their sides. It sits pinned to the throne with a large, curved sword through its chest, made from the jawbone of a dragon. The orc sits patiently, and only moves when the room is filled with the sound of rushing wind some minutes later. A cloud of orange sand is blown through the broken stained glass windows and takes the form of Kerubiel, played here by Chenoa Reid. All gilded armor and glorious purpose, he gives a deep bow and says,
"Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vattel. How may I be of assistance? Are you interested in joining my little venture? This is quite a display you've put on to get my attention, and I doubt it was all for the Harbinger, as you say."
I am the Harbinger.
Right. Of course you are. It's quite a story.
I wouldn't expect you to understand Kerubiel, but you will in time. I am the Harbinger, the messenger, for a new world I will never get to see, but we have guests yet to arrive.
Fascinating.
Some time passes where Zavoya waits patiently, and Kerubiel examines the throne room aloofly, when a cloud of iridescent green smoke drifts in through the same broken window and takes the shape of a bald woman with tanned skin and heavily pierced ears. She regards Kerubiel but speaks to Zavoya and says,
"How do you do? I represent the Green Whisper. They were quite surprised you managed to discover their personal address and get such a formal invitation to them. Their curiosity was piqued, but our time is best not wasted.
Our time will begin shortly, Representative.
We have more yet to arrive, my lady.
I am not royalty, Sand Demon.
And I am not a demon, Your Highness.
There's the sound of wings beating. Both Kerubiel and the representative look at the roof, which shudders beneath the weight of something immense landing upon it. Falling roof tiles and a large flicking black tail can be seen out the broken window, and a large scaled draconic humanoid, cloaked in its own bat-like wings, swings into the room from the roof, and it gives a deep bow to Zavoya, who nods back.
My Harbinger, I am happy to see the siege was a success, though I cannot say I am surprised.
Thank you, Nalbanax.
They all look to Zavoya, who is still waiting patiently, turning the crushed helmet over in his hands, waiting for another guest. And suddenly, a voice rings out like a piercing whisper.
I have arrived, Zavoya. Why have you summoned me here?
The group turns to see the corpse in the throne, regarding them, its arms clutching those of the chair, still pinned to the throne with Zavoya's sword.
Welcome, Placidius. You are our final guest. With us we have Nalbanax, the Withering Wind, Kerubiel, the Angel of Sand.
You know, I didn't choose that title. This stuff just follows me around.
And the representative of the Green Whisper, speaking on their behalf. I have gathered you all here to deliver a message, a vision which I have been bestowed by the creators of this world, our creators. They were spurned by their children, our ancestors. They spat in the face of those that made them, that provided the world for them, and so our makers left for a time. And look what that brought us. A continent devoid of life, and these cities, these remnants of the old worlds, are all rotten and corrupt, root and stem. The fruits they bear are poison. Chaos everywhere you turn, and everyone has a different idea of what to make out of it. Well, I've been sent to get everyone on the same page. The scales of fate and destiny are in free fall. It is up to us to seize them. I have gathered you all here to hear this message because you already know this. And so we offer an opportunity. Your creators are returning. They grow ever closer as we speak, and it is up to us to prepare the world for their return. To take in those that are willing to devote themselves to their makers, to put all that would staunch or stem the spread of this news to the sword. When they arrive, they shall wipe the world clean of the unworthy and evaluate their devotees. It is up to us to ensure that their flock is pious and loyal.
So we are to become preachers for these deities that we've never even heard of before, and I'm to believe these deities have real power and aren't just beseeching us to do dirty work of gaining followers for them. That's what I would do.
This does seem rather dubious. I must admit, I never cared for divine politics myself.
The flesh cares not for idols and powers. We shall reshape this world ourselves.
How the toys squabble.
In fact, I think this rather sounds like a clever little trick to try and stop all of us from becoming a problem for your prospective bosses, if they exist at all. I think they want us working for them so they don't have to do it themselves, threatening us with power they don't have in hopes we'll give them the power they want.
I assure you, Mr. Dorsek, the Hurve have no need for mortal followers. They demand it, no, expect it, as divine creatures of their stature should. But without it they are no less mighty, no less divine, no less capable of what they intend to accomplish with this world. But if you aren't willing to sacrifice your fleeting mortal works in exchange for a better world, then you can die with the old one. That is the offer I bring you, the reason I called you here. You are to be the champions of a new age, the coming of the old gods, our creators remaking the world anew. It has been befouled with the works of blasphemous creatures, and we are to aid them in wiping it clean and starting again.
And what do you expect from the flesh? A handshake? A binding pact? Do you deign to threaten the flesh should they refuse?
I don't expect anything. You don't need to answer to me. The makers will know where your loyalties lie when the time comes. If you're willing to devote yourself to our cause, to be named champion of the Hurve, the makers of Eranos, then you will journey to the highest peak of the White Spine Mountains, scale it hand and foot. There at the peak you will find a circle of standing stones devoted to our makers. You will make a sacrifice of your flesh and blood to contact them, and they will judge you.
Are we to believe you have taken this trial, Orc?
I have. They deemed me worthy enough to deliver this message to you, those with greater ambitions, greater influence. You have 6 months to pledge your devotion, after which it's fair game when our makers arrive. However, there is one complication for the 4 of you. Only 3 champions can be chosen.
What about you?
As I said, I am simply the harbinger, the messenger, the bringer of change. A champion will enact that change. Until then, Visage is mine, and welcome to all who devote themselves to our makers. This city's ruin shall be the foundation of the first capital of the new world, under the blessing of our makers.
There's a moment of silence where they all seem to be considering, glancing at each other to see where they stand. All except Naubanax, who has a self-satisfied, fanged smile on his face as he unfurls his large bat-like wings and says,
A pleasure as always, Savoya.
The representative seems hasty to leave as well, giving a curt nod to Savoya and saying,
I shall consider this proposition.
Before collapsing into a pile of snow, which begins to melt almost immediately.
I have already envisioned the perfect world, Zealots. I shall remake it to my own image, and your makers shall bear witness.
There's a death rattle as the living corpse falls lifeless once more. Kerubiel lingers and examines Savoya up and down.
Quite a show you're putting on here.
I know you've been masked for centuries, Kerubiel, so it might be hard to recognize the truth when someone tells it.
Kerubiel shakes his head.
We're all players on a stage, Savoya. Monologues or not. It's about using the props you're given, stealing the spotlight. It's about who you perform for. You've convinced yourself you're tearing down the curtains and the set. I believe you're simply choosing a different play.
Kerubiel turns once more into a cloud of sand, which drifts out the window. Savoya thinks to himself for a time before muttering,
And he thinks I'm dramatic.
There is a pause, and Savoya speaks again, projecting to fill the empty hall.
Did you get all of that?
He looks directly at the spot in the room where Chipper is drifting invisibly. The party, watching back in Eranos, almost jumps as he looks down the barrel of the camera. Chipper tries to escape out the door he entered out a broken window, but Savoya has crossed the room and in an instant, somehow, despite his gaseous form, put a hand around Chipper's throat. Chipper can't seem to move. He drops his gaseous form and draws a dagger, but Savoya deftly reaches his other hand and grabs his wrist, his fist so large it covers Chipper's hand and forearm. There's a sound like warping metal, and Chipper screams as Savoya's fist becomes steel. Chipper's dagger and arm both snap with a sickening sound. Savoya uses his thumb to tilt Chipper's head upwards, meeting each other's gaze.
I wanted you to see. I hope your whole court saw that. And I hope they spread the message. Your makers are coming. You will be judged. Be on the right side when they do.
There's a sickening crack. Chipper's head is twisted violently to the side, and the scrying spell goes dark. In a shocked silence, Emergence attempted to process the events of the last few hours, the last few days. Coromand was dead. Ranpram missing. A covert and alien corruption spreading from beneath the city's streets, and a gathering storm of enemies beginning to ally and organize with one another. And just as fearful, but perhaps blissfully unaware, Ranpram Sneedbar takes frantic flight toward the only place he could think to go. Home.